I'm about to tell you a story about friendship, heartbreak, and secrets nobody saw coming. But first, I'm noticing some of you haven't subscribed yet. Please do subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. So, here's the deal. I grew up with 3 best friends, all guys. I was the only girl in the mix. We came from some of the richest families around. But then everything changed when my family lost everything. After that, the grown-ups started planning a marriage alliance for me. They wanted me to marry one of my childhood friends. Sounds simple, right? But it wasn't. August, the bad boy of our school, gave me a quick once-over and said flat out, "No way. I like the obedient type." That was harsh. Then Marco, the sweet, goofy one, just shrugged and said, "She's like a big sister to me, nothing more." Finally, Nestor, the sharp-tongued genius, didn't even bother being nice. "She's reckless and stupid. Not wife material." The room was heavy with silence. My parents tried to smile through it, but I saw the pain behind their eyes. I was crushed. So I just looked at them and said calmly, "Mom, Dad, I have a boyfriend." At that moment, everything froze. August was lounging in a chair, one arm draped lazily over the back, chatting with Marco, who was smiling like always. Nestor sat quietly, scrolling on his phone, looking cold and distant behind his glasses. My parents tried to fill the silence with small talk, but the boys weren't really listening. Then I dropped my line, and the whole room stopped. August and Marco stared at me, shocked. Even Nestor looked up, his eyes sharp and unreadable. I acted like I didn't notice. "You should have told me this was a matchmaking dinner," I said coolly. "Would have saved us all the awkwardness." I told them honestly, even though we grew up together, I only ever saw you guys as friends, like brothers. Nothing romantic. My parents hadn't told me about the setup ahead of time. They were afraid I'd be too proud to accept it. They'd planned for me to marry Marco, who's 2 years younger and always cheerful, someone I never fought with. But August and Nestor showed up too. It hurt that they kept it a secret. But what hurt most was seeing my parents trying so hard to keep smiling even as their hearts broke quietly. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up, looked around, and said coldly, "Looks like none of you really wanted to be here anyway. Let's just call it a night." After my parents went to get the car, I was about to follow when August grabbed my arm from behind. He looked annoyed but curious, with that wild, rebellious style, white shirt over a black tee, 2 shiny diamond studs catching the light. "Long time no see," he said, smirking. "Your temper's worse than ever. Where'd you get a boyfriend? How old is he? What does he look like? Do I know him?" His questions came fast, almost like he cared, but I knew better. If I answered honestly, he'd just mock me later. I pulled my arm free and snapped, "None of your business." August stared, stunned, his smirk fading. Then Marco popped out behind him, grinning like a mischievous kid. "Whoa, what's with the attitude? Got yourself some random guy now? Weren't the 3 of us enough?" His grin was sharp, teasing, but also a little cruel. They always joked I was like their queen bee or something, like a princess they teased and tossed around. I used to think they cared. But after that night, I saw the truth, I was just a toy to them. I met Marco's eyes. He was waiting for me to get upset, but I didn't give him that satisfaction. I just turned and walked away. As I left, I heard Marco call after me, "When are you coming back to class?" I said without turning, "In a couple days." He grumbled, "Figures. Always soft with him. But really, you 2 broke up ages ago. Still playing favorites, huh?" Nestor, the one who called me reckless and stupid, was the same guy I had actually dated. He was the one who confessed to me first. Life was confusing. I still remember that moment like it was yesterday. Nestor was sitting beside me on the carpet, wearing comfy clothes, sleeves rolled up, his pale arms strong and relaxed. He'd taken off his glasses, and a few strands of dark hair fell over his forehead. He looked lazy, almost casual, but when he looked at me, his eyes softened in a way that words can't describe, almost indulgent. Instead of answering my question, he asked me one of his own, with a gentle smile, "Wanna be my girlfriend?" It hit me like an arrow right to the heart. I fell for it. That rare, intoxicating tenderness. I had no reason to say no. Under his care, I slowly crawled out of the darkness. I started feeling like myself again, even cheerful. Thinking back now, it still feels unreal. Nestor might have seemed cold and indifferent, but he was actually super controlling. When we dated, August had to stop slinging his arm over my shoulder. Marco toned down his teasing. Even the tiniest sign that I was uncomfortable, Nestor noticed and took it seriously. I was so happy I almost believed I was in love. I daydreamed about what kind of wedding dress I'd wear when I married him. But it was all an act. A fake show. I'll never forget the day I spent hours in the kitchen, my hands scratched and bruised from all the chopping and stirring. I finally managed to cook 18 dishes, all because Nestor said he wanted a birthday dinner made by me. Then the doorbell rang. I opened the door expecting praise. Gratitude. What I got instead was laughter. Merciless, baffling laughter. Marco was holding his stomach, laughing so hard he could barely stand. August was whistling, phone out, recording me standing there in my apron, spatula in hand, completely embarrassed. And Nestor? He leaned against the doorframe, smiling faintly like a player who'd already won the game, calmly enjoying the final score. Didn't think our proud little heiress had a housewife side, huh? Ha ha ha. Good thing we only bet on a month. If this kept up, Nestor, she'd probably even have your kid for you. August laughed next, turning to glance at me before shrugging like he didn't care. Oh, she heard that? Guess we'll have to spice things up next round. I stood frozen, like time slowed down. An icy numbness crept up from my feet and slowly froze me completely. Swallowing felt like gulping knives. My body shook uncontrollably, tiny trembles all over. My eyes flicked to Nestor, standing farthest away. My lips trembled. I wanted to ask, was any of it real? When I asked why he'd been so kind, he dodged the question. Now I knew why he was waiting for this moment. After more than a month together, wasn't there even a flicker of guilt? A sliver of mercy? He held my gaze for 3 long seconds. His smile faded slightly, then he looked away, calm and unbothered. No need to ask anymore. I got my answer. I thought I'd cry, sob until I drowned them in tears. Watch them panic, feel ashamed. But I couldn't cry. My throat tightened, chest ached, body ice cold, but my eyes stayed dry, empty. I stood there quiet, still, surrounded by laughter sharp like knives, until they finally laughed themselves out. Then, with a broken breath, I said, let's never speak again. After that day, I took a leave of absence from school. Soon, my dad's reputation and business both crashed. He refused to accept it, thinking he could come back, but only made things worse. If it wasn't for my mom clinging to our last savings, I might not have been able to afford tuition. We moved out of the fancy neighborhood. I sold everything expensive, my designer bags, piano, even my motorcycle and watches. Watching my bank balance slowly grow was the only thing that eased my anxiety. I asked my boyfriend Joe for help talking sense into my dad. Joe was brilliant, started his own company in high school and was running a successful business now. He was way better with money and business than I ever could be. Honestly, bossing him around didn't bother me at all. On my first day back to school, Joe's driver picked me up from our new place in the suburbs. Even without my car, my life hadn't dropped in quality. At the school gate, Joe stepped out, gentleman as always, opening the door for me and offering his hand. Suddenly, the roar of tires shattered the calm. August skidded into view on his motorcycle, helmet under his arm, face thunderous. His eyes locked onto Joe's hand still holding mine. Without warning, August flung his helmet at us. Joe and I jumped apart. August sneered, "So this is your so-called boyfriend? Your taste sucks. When did you start sneaking around behind our backs?" The way he said it, like I'd cheated on him, made me want to snap back. But then I caught something strange in his voice, a tension I didn't expect. I looked away from August and straight at Joe. I took Joe's hand in mine and said sweetly, "Let's go." Ignore him. We're gonna be late. The mood between the two men shifted instantly. Joe lit up like sunshine, clearly flattered by my touch. He smiled and ruffled my hair. Anything you say. August's face twisted with rage. He lunged to grab me, but Joe moved fast, smacking his hand away and standing protectively in front of me, cold and serious. Before I could react, a sharp voice cut through the tension. What do you think you're doing to my girlfriend? You're what? I turned my head and saw Marco and Nestor standing nearby, having appeared out of nowhere. In that moment, I knew there was no way we were making it to class. Marco stepped closer, eyes narrowing as he looked at me and Joe. Gone was his usual sweet boy act. His tone was sarcastic, nasty. How long have you been dating? And you're already calling her your wife? Got no shame. He added, listen, sis. You can't trust guys like him. If you're really desperate, I could lower my standards and volunteer. Joe laughed in disbelief. Flirting with someone else's girl right in front of him? Who was really shameless here? The two of them started bickering like kids. It wasn't threatening, but super embarrassing. Some students nearby tried to sneakily record the scene, hoping to catch gossip for the school page. I tugged Joe's sleeve, signaling it was time to leave. Nestor, who had been quiet the whole time, finally spoke in a calm voice that cut deep. Elise. So anyone who's nice to you, you just fall for them, is that it? I wasn't surprised Nestor had looked into Joe's background. Anyone who wanted to could find out everything. Joe hadn't been subtle, his pursuit was loud, fiery, and public. We talked a few times, got along, grabbed meals, helped each other with homework. Then news broke that I'd broken up with Nestor. Just 3 days into my leave, Joe found me at the hospital and started showing up, trying everything to cheer me up. Unlike Nestor, Joe never hid how he felt. He confessed openly, sincerely, boldly, like he was offering me his heart on a silver platter. I watched him for a long time. After checking with a private investigator I'd hired, I said yes. I became his girlfriend. The sun outside was harsh and blinding, almost hateful. I looked back at Nestor, still waiting for my answer. I smiled wide and said, yeah. So what? I like whoever's useful to me. Everyone except my ex. Honestly, I didn't expect my relationship with Joe to shake up those three so much. When I first said I had a boyfriend, none of them really believed me. Joe and I made it just in time for second period. Few seats left, so we had to sit in the front row. As soon as we sat, Marco swooped in and sat right beside me. Then 2 chairs behind us creaked open. Joe clenched his jaw but said nothing. That's how I sat through class, trapped in this tense, suffocating silence. Only Marco cracked, leaning in with fake pity. Hey sis, are you serious about him? When I didn't answer, he looked disappointed, dazed. The other two stayed calm. After class, Joe whispered something to me. I nodded but didn't hear a word. Probably about takeout or flowers or dessert. Didn't matter. I leaned over and pressed a kiss on his cheek like a reward. Suddenly, pens and books clattered to the floor behind me. Chairs screeched. We didn't flinch. I stayed calm. Joe blushed beet red, eyes lost focus, stared at my lips, swallowed hard. He leaned in for another kiss, but his lips met the back of a hand. Joe jerked back, frustrated, eyes locking with August's. Sparks practically flew. They stood up, ready to fight. I called out, August. They froze. August turned, eyes full of something strange expectation. What was August expecting? What did he think I was going to say? I smiled slightly and looked him right in the eyes. Then I said slow and clear, even if you chased him off, I still wouldn't choose you as my boyfriend. His face went blank for a second, then like he'd been jabbed with a needle, he exploded. He scoffed like I'd just told the dumbest joke on earth, sneering with disbelief and rage. Who do you think you are? What makes you think I'd want to be your boyfriend? You're delusional. Seriously. Go take a good look in the mirror, look at your Lou family. He was so angry, he'd lost control, lashing out wildly, like he'd completely lost the upper hand. Then Nestor jabbed an elbow into him, cutting him off. "Shut up. You'll regret it later." Nestor turned to me, and for once, there was something different in his expression. Wait, confusion. He said, "I have just one question." I braced myself for something awful. But what he asked caught me off guard. "Why did you never kiss me?" My ready-made answers fell apart in my throat. I even wondered if I'd misheard him. Nestor repeated, firm and relentless, "I was with you longer than him. Spent more time with you than he did. So why did you kiss him but never once kiss me first?" The classroom was empty and quiet, only a few of us left. Nestor's question hung heavy, echoing in the silence. Everyone was waiting for my answer. But all I felt was the urge to laugh. Coldly. I let my gaze sweep over the three of them, memorizing their faces. Then I scoffed. "A liar like you has the nerve to ask something like that? What, did all of you lose your memories? Forget that I said we're done. That we're not friends anymore." Right in front of them, I reached for Joe's hand and, with the same cold impatience they'd used on me countless times, said, "Get lost. Don't bother me again." Joe squeezed my hand back. Like a rooster who'd just won a fight, he strutted proudly, leading me toward the door. Just as we reached it, Marco suddenly yelled, "I never agreed to stop being friends." "Sis, I admit I was wrong to bet on you, to mess with you. Punish me however you want. But please, don't stay mad at me. And don't leave with him, okay?" His eyes were red, his voice pitiful. This time, it didn't seem fake. He murmured, "I just realized. I actually like you." The only response he got was a merciless laugh. I asked him, genuinely curious, "You're like, what's that supposed to be? Some kind of treasure?" "It doesn't surprise me. It just disgusts me." Marco stared at me in disbelief. Tears were falling freely now. I used to treat him like a little brother. Coddled him. Forgave his childish nonsense. But over and over, he trampled my heart like dirt beneath his shoes. I didn't even glance back. Just walked out. In Joe's car, he did everything he could to cheer me up. Then I suddenly asked, "How many days have we been together?" Joe blinked, then answered automatically, 29 days. I was tired. Tired of everything. I just wanted it to end. So I smiled and said, "Then come to my place tomorrow. We've been dating a full month, we should celebrate." Joe had never heard of a 1-month anniversary, but he nodded eagerly. He said he'd better hurry and find the perfect gift. I told him I'd prepared a gift too, something he'd never expect. He asked what it was. I said, "It's a surprise." He got more curious, more excited. The next day when he arrived, I blindfolded him with a silk ribbon. His breathing slowed. Nervous. In disbelief he asked, "Babe, your gift, is it?" I pressed a finger to his lips. "Shoo, don't guess." I led him to a chair and sat him down. Joe, tense but obedient, followed my every word. Even when I asked him to undress, even when I tied him up with ropes, he followed along, ears red, muttering under his breath, "So this is what you're into." His breathing grew heavier. His body started reacting. Everything was ready. I opened the door. Footsteps echoed. A few men entered the room. Joe stiffened. He turned his head, alarmed. "Babe, is someone else here?" The ribbon was pulled off. He squinted at the sudden light. His pupils shrank to pinpoints. He stared at the camera in front of him. And the 5 burly men standing silently around the room. I didn't smile. Not anymore. Expressionless, I asked, "Joseph, do you like the gift I prepared for you?" When he appeared at the hospital, I already had my suspicions. The private investigator I hired brought back results that shocked me. Joe's real name was Joseph Lynn. The illegitimate son of the Lynn family. August's half-brother, one he didn't even know existed. He'd been raised abroad with his mother. But as he got older, so did his ambition. He believed he was smart enough, capable enough to replace August. So he came back in secret. He hated the brother who grew up as the golden boy, showered in wealth and resources. He hated him. And hated everything he loved. When he realized August's attention always drifted toward me, he set his sights on me too. Even though August and I never acknowledged any feelings between us, to outsiders, his affection was obvious, like a boy in love, clueless. He teased, acted out, did whatever to get attention. Joseph wanted to destroy him. But August was too hard to get. So he settled for me, hoping my ruin would hurt August just as deeply. I became the target of his revenge. If I hadn't found Samuel hiding from loan sharks and forced the truth out of him, I might never have known Joseph's twisted mind. "Why didn't you suspect Nestor?" Joseph asked, glaring at the men around him, trying to stall. He didn't know. Even though the kidnapping overlapped with their disgusting bet, I never once suspected any of the three. We grew up together. I knew them. If I'd hated the wrong person, wouldn't that have played right into Joseph's hands? I didn't give him time to stall. I turned and walked out. The 5 men I'd hired moved in. Joseph panicked. He screamed my name, begged me to stop, begged me not to do this. But he didn't get to choose. Just like I hadn't gotten to choose back then. A thick stack of photos was developed. Exactly what I needed. I'm not heartless. So I didn't let those men actually hurt him. They just used props and captured every moment of Joseph's humiliation, his tears, his fear, shot after shot. Now if he ever dares to come near me again, he'll have to ask himself if he's ready for the world to see what I'm holding. First I cut ties. Then I got my revenge. After everything, I felt drained. I took a week off, shut myself in, finally started to recover. I was just about ready to go back to school when I got a call from my dad. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a luxurious, dim room, curtains tightly drawn. Heat pressed down on me, suffocating and disorienting. I gasped for breath, shrugged off my jacket, but it didn't help. My throat was dry, my head a mess. Sweat clung to my hair as I stared blankly at the ceiling, trying to piece it all together. The blanket next to me shifted. A low, hoarse voice said, "You're awake." I jumped, startled, but the voice was familiar. Hesitantly, I asked, "August?" He didn't answer. But I heard his ragged, shallow breaths, just like mine. Even dazed, I realized the truth. We had both been drugged. Locked in the same room. The same bed. Who? The more I thought, the colder I felt inside. I didn't want to face the answer clawing at my mind. Then August lost control. He rolled over and pinned me beneath him. Hot kisses rained down messily on my face. While kissing, he choked out desperate questions. "Why didn't you answer my texts? Why did you block me? Do you hate me that much?" Those things I said, I didn't mean them. I was lashing out. I didn't want to cut ties. Not even a little. I kicked him, but my body was weak. My kick barely made contact. I shouted, "Shut up! I don't want to hear it. Get off me! Stop pulling at my clothes!" His movements halted, caught in some terrible inner battle. But in the end, he whispered, "I can help your family's company, Elise. I can fix this for you." With that, desire won. All my resistance and struggles became fuel for his fire. In that burning, suffocating blaze, I had a bitter realization. The man I once truly loved was no better than this. No one came to save me. The door burst open, kicked down from the outside. Nestor was first to enter. He froze at the tangled mess on the bed, then stopped the others from coming in except Marco. Marco charged in like a cannonball, ripping August off me, fists flying, shouting, "Do you even know what you're doing? We agreed to fair competition and you stoop to this?" August had no defense. But after a few punches, when Marco wouldn't stop, August fought back. They went at it hard and fast. I ignored them. My gaze locked on Nestor in the doorway. Slowly, I lifted my hand toward him. He came forward and wrapped me in his coat, covering me gently. He held me and whispered, "It's okay now. It's over. I'm here." In his arms, I wept silently. Looking into his eyes, trembling with grief and honesty, I whispered, "The one I liked, all along, was you." Nestor's hand clamped tightly around my wrist. His breathing was rough for a few seconds, then steadied. He released my wrist only to pull me into a tighter embrace. Over and over, he murmured, "You didn't do anything wrong. Don't apologize. Don't ever apologize. You're not the one at fault." His voice cracked, choked with regret. He whispered, "It's me." I realized it too late. Nestor carried me out of that place. He came prepared, with more people. August and Marco didn't stand a chance. Then my father burst through the crowd, too late. He couldn't understand why, after he drugged August, it was Nestor who walked away with me. But it didn't matter to him. Whoever took me was now responsible for paying up. His company was collapsing. He needed someone to bail him out, no questions asked. He wasn't ready to give up. He thought he was still young, still capable of a comeback, a second rise to glory. So he set the trap. He shouted after us, called my name. But I buried my face in Nestor's shoulder, holding tightly to his neck. I said nothing. Just cried quietly. My tears soaked through his shirt. I knew he had no defense against this kind of thing. Sure enough, I didn't even have to beg him. His expression turned cold. He gave the order, "Hold my father back. Don't let him come near." Then he called his own father. Asked him to make a move. Make sure, as fast as possible, my father went bankrupt with no chance of recovery. Then I looked up from his arms, red-eyed, and choked out, "I want to see my mom." Nestor looked down at me. His eyes overflowed with tenderness. He kissed my forehead and whispered, "Okay. I'll take you." Nestor found my mom in a private hospital, locked away. She wasn't in a good mental state but physically unharmed. In many ways, she and I were cut from the same cloth. Only now did she finally tell me everything. All my suspicions were wrong. Our downfall had nothing to do with those other families. It was my dad. Stuck in the past, refusing to change with the times. Still running the company with outdated methods from 20 years ago. Business kept getting worse. He spiraled. Started drinking. Cheated. When my mom found out, they fought constantly. But for my sake, she hid it all. Hoping he'd wake up and return to the family. Instead, he got worse. Worse to the point he tried to trade me for a second chance at wealth. That first awkward matchmaking dinner? It had been his idea. After that, my mom grew suspicious. So to keep his plans from being exposed too soon, he locked her away in the hospital. And just then, I was busy dealing with the kidnapping aftermath. I didn't want to worry my family, so I kept my distance. That's how I walked straight into my father's trap. But it's over now. My mom saw the truth. She filed for divorce. And Nestor, saying I needed care, brought me back to his private apartment. Because he had me all to himself, Nestor and August and Marco officially fell out. The three had been inseparable since childhood. Now every time they crossed paths, it nearly came to blows. I didn't have to say a word. Nestor hated August deeply. A man who tried to steal the woman he loved, that hatred ran to the bone. After being drugged, August still had a chance to stop. But he didn't leave. He stayed with me. Waited until the drug took full effect. Until he lost control. And I was the one who suffered. Forced. Violated. All I could do was cry, curled in Nestor's arms. That secret I'd buried for over 10 years cracked open from the pain. The one I'd always loved was him. With his intelligence, he must have sensed something between me and August. But he was never sure. So when he heard me say I'm sorry, he was both overjoyed and unprepared. He never expected it to be him. And after that, all he felt was guilt. Overwhelming, suffocating guilt. He did something that shattered his relationship with August completely. He helped Joseph. He gave him the perfect opening to return. Just as August was being condemned by everyone, the Lin family was thrown into chaos. For the first time in over 20 years, August's position as heir was shaken. He was too busy putting out fires to go after Nestor for revenge. But Marco? He still clung on, relentlessly. Nestor hadn't found the right way to bring him down yet. So for now, he was stuck dealing with it. I gave him half-hearted comfort. A few casual kisses. That was enough to keep him calm. It had to be. After everything I'd been through, Nestor treated me like glass. Too scared to touch me. Afraid to break me all over again. So he never pushed. Never dared ask for more. While he fought off the others, my mom finalized the divorce and left the country. Everything arranged by me. On the day I planned to leave, I thought about it for a while. Then I left Nestor a gift. A simple pen. Nothing fancy. But maybe its purpose was to remind him. Remind him now and then of the beautiful moments we once had. So he couldn't completely escape the memory. He had already fallen for me long ago. I realized it far too late. Too bad he never saw it clearly. And by the time I did, he had already lied to me. Already shattered the feelings I had. The sun rose bright and clear. It was a perfect day. I landed on the far side of the ocean and turned on my phone. 70 missed calls from Nestor. Over 100 messages. I never knew he could be so relentless. Just as I paused to think, another call from him lit up my screen. I didn't hesitate. Blocked the number. Powered off the phone. Took out the SIM card and tossed it away. When I looked up, my mom was waving at me from a distance. I grabbed my suitcase and ran to her. From this moment forward, my new life begins. If this story touched you, or if you've ever been through something like this, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you'd handle a situation like this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's more stories coming your way soon.